Rightio, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Life Livers Academy podcast. I'm always excited for my guests that come on onto the show, but today I'm super excited. I've got someone I've wanted to speak to for a long time now. Is the former WBO Heavyweight Champion of the world, Joseph Parker. Joe, I know you're incredibly busy at the moment, bro. You've got a lot on your plate, so I really appreciate you giving up your time, and I'm looking forward to having a chat, man.
Oh, thank you, bro. Thanks for having me on. And also, when you said former, it would be way better if you said the current.
The current. Well, mate, I'm backing you. couple of jobs to get done, and then we can do it again, bro.
Yeah, a couple of fights. Obviously the one that we have at the end of the year, try and take care of business, and then from there, not overlooking anything, but I 2 or 3 fights, and we'll be back at the top.
I believe it, man. What's it been like? This camp, I know you've only just gone into camp, and it's quite an interesting one watching from afar with Junior, because you guys have got history and it's New Zealand and it's been built up to be a big thing. But he's obviously always been someone who's probably been in your sights. That was always going to happen at some stage. You guys know each other well. You're in the same city. Trainers know each other, but also the COVID element as well. What's it been like getting into the swing of things over the last few weeks, man?
Yeah, Kevin flew down from Vegas, and so he quarantined with his wife and his son for 2 weeks. So it was good. We started camp last Friday, and we got together. And usually my mistake, or my the things I do bad in the past, is that I go into camp heavy, and I go into camp a bit fat around the hips and around the peaks. But this time I was able to keep in shape, and I guess there's a different focus or different motivation. I was champion of the world before, and I think I was doing it mostly for other people. I was doing it for myself, but I feel like I did it mostly for other people. Whereas now, I feel like I want to do it for myself, and I want to be, I want to get there. I want to be 2-time world champion or unified champion. So it didn't really take us that long to get into the swing of things. We clicked I think it took a few rounds, and then we clicked straight away. And he was impressed with my fitness, coming into this camp.
What about talk to me about Junior, bro? Because people, I mean, you obviously know him very well, but it feels like he's had a bit of an up and down career. He had some health issues and stuff like that, and people kind of wrote him off a bit there and said he was sluggish and slow. And but people are probably sleeping on him a little bit. He's a genuinely, like a world class heavyweight as well. He hasn't been anywhere near your level yet, so this is by far his biggest test. He hasn't had those big stages like you've had or fought those top guys, but he's also no mug. Like he's a good boxer, and he's got a good crew around him as well.
He's got a great crew around him, and that'll give him confidence. But also with his record, coming off those, it was a while ago, the amateur days, but we have 2 wins each, and he won the last one. So he'll be coming with confidence, I think, from that, from his undefeated record, and also the team that he has around him. You got Eugene, you got Doug Viney, and those guys have been in the sport for a while, and Eugene's done some great things with Israel Adesanya and the team from City Kickboxing. So I guess a lot of people are sleeping on him, and probably haven't seen a lot of him because his fights weren't really shown here in New Zealand, right, compared to the ones that I've had. And so I think genuinely it's going to be a great fight. We have 2 Polynesians both ranked in the top 10 in the world, living not far from each other. South Auckland, both living in South Auckland, and I guess it's a great opportunity for 2 Polynesians to come together, headline this card at the end of the year. And not only us, there's going to be a great undercard. There's going to be great talent from New Zealand that we're going to put on display. And I think we're just going to make a great event out of it, because COVID hasn't been the best thing this year. Stopping a lot of plans, changing a lot of plans, changing fights, changing events, everything has changed. And so for us to end the year with a big event like this, hopefully we finish it off with a bang.
Yeah, man, I hope so, mate. I hope so. It's actually just touching on that, like the opportunity for those guys on the undercard is massive, and that's something, there's always a shining light through things like COVID, and having Eddie and those guys on board and the exposure that this fight's going to get around the world. I hadn't really thought about how much exposure that gives those young other guys on this card.
It's going to be great exposure. Like you said, it's going to be here in New Zealand. It's going to be shown in Australia. It's going to, and with Matchroom behind it, the Zone, Ludabella, all those. It's going to be shown all around the world. And I guess it's an opportunity for Junior and myself to put on the best that we can. But also, we're going to show everyone around the world, the talent that we have here in New Zealand. And we have a lot of talent. We just haven't had the opportunity to show them. And also, there's a lot of fighters coming up that we haven't really seen. So it's going to be good to see. Like for me, I'm excited for the undercard. Then I'm excited to get in there and fight myself.
That's awesome, bro. No, it's good things. It's a good time for combat sport in New Zealand. Obviously, with you and what you've done over the past couple of years, Junior coming through as well, and then obviously all the boys at City Kickboxing and the UFC, like combat sport's in a real good place, which is awesome for young athletes because it shows that anyone, no matter where you're from, even if you're down here in New Zealand, you can make it, at a world championship level.
With all of us doing really well, it just inspires the younger generation. Whatever, maybe it doesn't even have to be fighting. It's like whatever sport that you put your heart, your mind, and your soul into, and if you have the support from your parents, your community, then everyone can achieve whatever they want to achieve. So it's just us. We're just using our platform to show, right, you guys can achieve it as well.
Nice, bro. Well, I'm interested to know what you've been in boxing. How old were you when you started boxing?
I started. I probably started. My first memory would be when I was about 3 years old. My dad holding up his hand, hey son, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, and just teaching me how to punch. And that's actually my first memory of throwing a punch and just slowly getting into it. And then from then on, it was he would travel to Australia, Germany, wherever he was going, bring back little punching bags that he can hold, little gloves little gloves that'll fit a 3 or 4 year old's hand, and he'll hold it, we'll punch it. And then slowly as we progressed, he started taking us to different gyms. By the age of 7, 8 years old, we trained at Otara, Otahu, Manarua, we trained at Papatoe, all around South Auckland. We found gyms that we thought, that my dad thought at the time was good. And then I got my brother and I into Papatoe gym at a young age, and I had my first fight at 12 years old.
And when did you, did you always have the goal to become a world champion? Like, when did that come about? Was that something that as a kid you grew up like, I'm going to be a boxer, or did you have other aspirations as a kid? I mean, when did it become real?
As a kid, it became real. Like I've always said, I'm going to be champion of the world. And you say it, but you don't really mean it until you actually feel it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I've said it. And then probably by the age of 15, 16, I actually started to really mean it.
Right.
And actually started to really back myself to be champion of the world. And then from then on, that's when I really, the passion grew stronger, the love for boxing grew stronger. And then I thought to myself, what? I am going to be champion of the world. And I took that goal, and I didn't know when I was going to be champion. I knew I was going to be champion. I just didn't know when it was going to happen.
And what is it that gave you, was there a turning point where you were like, shit, I can actually do this? Was it like that you went away to an event that you got to a certain level with it? Was there certain people that influenced you at that time, coaches, mentors, that gave you that belief, or where did that come from?
The belief was instilled into me by my dad right at the beginning. Like he said, when I was 3 years old, I was going to be champion of the world.
Wow.
And how can you say that to a kid who's 3 years old? You don't know if he's going to be good or not. You just got introduce him to boxing and you think he's going to be champion of the world. And then from that belief in me, from him, and then I gained my own belief in myself. And I was like 16 years old. I went to this tournament down in Rotorua, and I saw this, this massive guy that I was fighting. So I went around the corner and I go, Coach, is that the guy I'm fighting? He goes, yeah. And then I go, bro, he's massive. I'm 16 and this guy's like 21, I think, something like that. And so I was a bit worried, nervous. But then when I went in there, the coach said, trust our training, trust your jab, and take care of business. And I went in there and smashed him. And then I thought to myself, oh, wait, this is fun. I can do this for a living. And then I think that was sort of the turning point. And then I started, started training hard. My dad started asking people, what should my son be doing with training? What should he be eating? To wake up in the morning, make me 10 eggs because he thought it was right. Tuna, like everything. He went out and sort of just found the information that he could find at the time. And it helped. And it helped progress me as a fighter and started me off.
So would you say your dad's had the greatest impact on your career in that case?
My dad's the greatest impact on my career. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be boxing. And if it wasn't for him, he said to me back in the day, son, you're going to be champion of the world. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have pushed it as hard as I did. And I believe that I became champion of the world to make him happy and proud. He's living his dreams through me. And then that's what I'm saying now. The focus is different. Now I feel like, okay, I've done this for him. I've done this for my coach. I've done this for New Zealand Samoa. Now I really want to do it for myself. And that's why I've changed it up now. I keep in shape. I eat better. I'm sleeping better. In the past, you like to have fun with your friends and go out, do this, do that. But I feel like the focus has changed and it's a lot. I have a clearer sort of vision that I visualize.
And so it's real interesting that you say that, bro, because I reckon that's probably quite a common thing, though, is like people doing it not for themselves 100% of the time. A lot of the time it's for family members, it's for other, coaches and mentors and people around you. Does it just feel different this time around? Like, you talked about staying in shape. That's something that you haven't really done over the course of your career. We talked about that off camera. You sort of blow out and then you've got to do all that work to get fit again. And I don't know, I'm only watching from social media, but it seems like it's been relatively effortless to kind of stay in shape this time around. You've seemed like you've had a different level of motivation. Does it just feel different because that drive is for you this time?
It feels different because, firstly, I think one of the factors is the drive is for me. The drive is I want to do it for myself, but then also maturity, also having a family, and then all of a sudden everything's sort of just falling into place. We have a home and I have a happy family. And I have this goal of being champion of the world again. And now things are just starting to click a bit better. And so, I have been keeping in shape. And take example of the Joshua fight. I had 2 elbow surgeries and then I just mucked around and ate pies and burgers and chips and fizzy drinks. And then I went into that camp 123 or 124 kgs and I cut down to 107. So instead of working on skills and techniques, focusing on boxing, I was focusing on losing weight and getting in shape and looking lean and mean. So but the focus is different now. I'm already in shape, and I've started off. At a really good. My base fitness is good, so it's a good starting point for us.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Talk to me about the Joshua fight, bro, because it was such a massive event for New Zealand sport. I mean, I'm sure it was, for you and your family, just incredible. But and the team that have worked so hard to get you there, but. From a perspective of New Zealand sport, man, like getting to having a world heavyweight champion and then you defended your title and then you're going up against the biggest name in the sport, arguably a guy who's sort of become the face of it. What was that event like for you, bro? You seem calm and collected throughout the whole thing, but like, it's interesting to hear you say that you were, not necessarily the most focused going into that. What was the build up like, and what was it like being on such a massive stage? Were you nervous?
Nerves are good, and I looking back, I probably was a little bit nervous here and there, but I was the focus was more on just getting the job done. And so, like I said, I went into camp pretty fat. I lost a lot of weight, and then I wasn't able to punch properly until 3 weeks before the fight. The elbows still. So I was punching in camp, and everything was painful. Then we were able to get it treated with stem cell treatment and a few PRP and a few other things. So that really helped, and it's all legal stuff. But leading into the fight, I didn't really appreciate the size of the event or what I went through until after the fight. When I sort of after the fight happened, and then I sort of stood back and just looked at the whole thing. I was like, holy moly! Like this is what a massive event. But I didn't really appreciate it or actually understand it until after the fight.
Do you have coaches in that trying to get that? Was that just something that you think you had to go through? Obviously, you're going to come out of that better. Like you're saying now, you're almost like a re-energized version of yourself now, and you're more mature and stuff. But was that a case of like people around you telling you to do something and you just kind of not taking it on board? Or is that a case of just having to find your way in the sport and at that magnitude, like there's no sort of rule book for that? I mean, what do you put that down to?
Yeah, there's no real rule book. I'm not sure. I think it was just more focused on what was in front of me, and then not really, of course you have to appreciate it when you're going through it, but I wasn't really aware, like, I was even walking out to the stadium, there's 80,000 people, I'm just, I can see some people here and there, I can't see 80,000 people, so I'm not really thinking about 80,000 people, and then when I saw the video after the fight, and then I saw all the crowd, I was like, it was only when I put on replay, I was like, oh, like I just, I was like, man, this is what an event.
And what's it like on the other side of the event then? Because obviously that was your first loss, and you lost your belt, and it was like there was the probably watching that fight back. How much did it frustrate you? Because there was times, I think it was like the 6th round or something, I was like, Joe's got him, like he's actually hurt him here. And I think AJ, he was a bit rattled. What's it like on the other side when you watch something like that back and when you digest what's happened? How do you deal with like, the mental side of it? Because that must be a pretty big come down.
Yeah. I reckon, honestly, when I finished that fight and I thought to myself, okay, I did the best I could at the time and I gave it what I thought was everything, then I was pretty okay after the fight. But looking back now, I could have done more. I could have thrown more. I could have put on more pressure. and then you start sort of watching the fight and analyzing what you could have done, what you should have done, you know. And you're always going to try and you know, because you're always your biggest sort of, what's the word for
your
it?
own biggest critic.
You're always your biggest critic. And so when I watch the fight back, I'm just like, you could have done this, you should have done this, you could have closed the distance. And that's the difference. So for me, you know, being in that fight, I'm still learning. The difference with a fighter that could, you know, in the fight, even if the ref is involved, a great fighter could adjust and change and adapt to the situation and do better. You know what I mean? So that's the fighter I'm trying to be. You know, going into a fight, and if it's not working, adjust, adapt, do better.
Nice, man. And, I mean, you've got to, obviously, in those failures is the biggest learnings, and I guess that's a pretty token gesture to throw around, but it's true though, isn't it? Like, even the way that you're talking about looking at that, if you get that opportunity again next year, the way that you go into it, you've got so many lessons to fall on when you're in those moments.
If I ever get the opportunity again, there's a lot of lessons that I've learned from the fight, but then also one big thing is I want to take more risks, because, you know, the bigger the risk, the better the reward. You know, so you got to take risk in fights. And maybe I was too conservative and too defensive. And I said to myself after that fight, man, you know what? From now on, I'm not going to get fat. And then before the Dillian Whyte fight, I got fat again. So I didn't learn. So the lesson of getting fat and blowing up, well, I didn't learn that until after Dillian Whyte.
Your motivations changed. I guess a couple of back-to-back losses, your motivations naturally. You're either going to at that point go, I've had enough, or you're going to really dig in, aren't you?
Or really, really change and dig in and do better.
What about the Ruiz fight when you win the title? You've spent, you know, like you just said, you've been started since you're like 3, and your father was talking to you about being a world champion. You get to fight in front of everyone that you care about the most. Like, it's another massive event. What was it like when you actually won? You're standing in the end there at the end, you get the belt wrapped around you, your father, everyone around you, and you're the world champion. What does that feel like? It's not something many of us get to experience, bro.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about that fight is that the fight was made. You know, the Ruiz Parker fight was made, and then I was in Vegas training for a week, and then I flew to Palm Springs to do the deal. So the fight was announced, and I had to do the deal of what my purse would be. So I flew to Palm Springs, met Juco events. My parents flew up, and while we're doing the deal, we're happy with it. And then I sort of got asked, "Do you want to come to this concert called Desert Trip with the Roger Waters, the Who, Paul McCartney, you know, the Rolling Stones?" And so I went to this 3-day concert. So anyway, so I went to the concert, then I flew back to Vegas and started training again for a week. Then I had an urgent trip that I had to come to New Zealand for 3 days. Then I flew back to Vegas and trained for 4 weeks, but all the traveling messed up my whole camp. Like, I got to Vegas and I couldn't even like get into the zone or get into rhythm in 4 weeks that I had in Vegas. And before I left Vegas, I couldn't even spar 4 rounds. You know, I was getting chased around and beaten up by guys I should be, you know, laying hands on. So then I left. The fortunate thing about that camp was I was speaking to a psychologist. You know, his name was Kerry Evans, and he was very, very useful in that camp, and a few other camps as well.
He's awesome. I've got his book sitting on the shelf here somewhere.
Yeah, so he is awesome. So even though things weren't working out, he just, you know, one of the simplest things he said was just trust the process. You know, you've been here before, you've had many fights, just trust it. And so I came to New Zealand 2 weeks before the fight, and I was like, you know, thinking about the camp, and it's like, I didn't even spar 4 rounds. How am I? And then slowly I just, you know, stuff that, who cares about that stuff? Just trust the process. Things will be okay. So even in the fight, you know, I wasn't showing it, but I was hella tired, you know. And then, but I was tired. And then after the fight, once I won the title, you know, I was just looking around at the whole team and just, you know, looking mostly at my dad, looking at the coach, you know, and just like, you know, this is for us.
Pretty special. What did you do that night? How'd you celebrate?
Nothing. I went and brought McDonald's, right? And then I went and saw my parents, and we were staying at the Pullman Hotel. I went and saw my parents. We did a prayer. I slept it off, and then the next day we had a bit of a function at one of the bars, and had a mean feed. We rewatched the fight, and you know, everyone was just happy and celebrating, and people coming and taking photos. I was like, oh, this is a nice belt.
Well, just going back to what you said about Dr. Kerry Evans, because that stuff's interesting. The question I was going to ask you when you were talking about having bad camps and stuff, it sounds like you've dealt with those injuries and you've had less than ideal sort of build-ups in a few of your fights. How much? I was going to ask you how that plays on your mindset going in, and how hard it is to block that stuff out going into a fight. Because if you're going in thinking about it all, surely that plays on you. What was it that you sort of learned from your workings with him and around the mental game? Because that's a massive part of combat sport.
The massive part is the mental game, and I learned a lot from him. Like there's so many things that happen in camp, but he just simplified everything. Like he just made it. It's like one of those things where he simplifies it, and then like you think to yourself, "Oh, I could have thought of that," but you like after thinking about it, you go, I could have thought about that myself, but then you couldn't. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
and it's just everything is like structure. Everything is little steps at a time, and everything is just it's mental game, believing in yourself, putting in the work, pushing yourself to the next level. All these things that I want to start working with him again. Because everything was just it was a great sort of time for me to learn off someone like him.
Yeah, it's just it's such a crucial part of it. I actually interviewed a guy. I don't know if you know David Neathy, but he's done a bit of mental skills work with Kaya France and Brad Riddell and Israel Adesanya and that, and we talked about a lot of the mental skills for combat sport. And it's the same thing. A lot of it just comes back to the inner dialogue and controlling your thoughts. And obviously, like you say, a lot of the stuff that's common sense isn't always common practice. Eh?
No. A lot of stuff is common practice, but I think it's very important. You got to have everything in your game. You got to have the coaches for physical stuff. You got physios. You got the massage therapists, and then you got to have someone to work on your mind, because the mind is probably one of the most. Yeah, it is the most important thing in sport.
Mm. What would you say? Like boxing's a great teacher, bro. Like as I'm involved down here, I'm in Nelson at the moment, down with Victory Boxing. I've been around that for a few years, and it's amazing what boxing does in the community and for people that come through. Like it's more than just a sport where, like it changes.
I think it's a sport. It's more than just a sport, but it's the platform to use.
It's a vehicle.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken from boxing that have helped you in life in general?
Biggest lessons in boxing would be hard work, respect, discipline. Nothing comes easy, and also being able to, with fighters or boxing, the ability to be able to give back. Even the position that I'm in, and I'm still fighting now, but it's always nice when you're giving than receiving. And there's always the fact of respecting everyone. In the ring, you know what to do, take care of business, but outside of the ring, before and after the fight, respect. You have to be disciplined in everything that you do, whether it's camp, sleep, training, eating, everything. The list goes on. Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like I say, it's like it's a great vehicle to influence people, and obviously guys like Paul and that at Victory are doing some really good work. Yeah, but it's also interesting, even at your level, like a lot of those still key fundamentals are the things that transfer over into anything else. Like if you go into business or you go and do anything else post-boxing, it's those same principles that you've learned through boxing, like discipline and hard work, and that enables you to have success in any other area as well.
Yeah, it's not only just for the boxing side of things, but also life and then also business. And hopefully one day after boxing, I can get involved in a business and look after my family and not just, you don't want to be the fighter or the athlete that just says, oh, he was good at this time, then he's left with nothing. You know what I mean? And it happens to a lot of our athletes.
It does, man. Yeah. I mean, what are your goals over the next sort of 5 years? One goal is obviously to get back to being the champion of the world. And I would imagine unifying those belts. But do you think about post-boxing, or are you just focused on what you've got to do within the sport at the moment?
I'm focused on what to do in the sport, whether it's champion of the world or unified champion of the world, and I don't want to fight anywhere past 30, like 35 will be the max, but anywhere like 33 will be another 5-6 years and I'm done. I just want to be able to leave the sport and still know how to spell my name.
Yeah, that's important.
But the boxing side of things, I want to achieve those goals, but outside of boxing, I want to help young talent from this side of the world and put them on the world stage, whether it's sport, whether it's music, whether it's whatever, academic. We have so much talent here, but we need help. We need a pathway to put them on the world stage.
I agree with you, man. That's cool that's in your thinking, and obviously your relationship with David Higgins, he's sort of doing that. Like that's part of what he does with Juco, and I think that guy he gets a bad rap considering what he's done for people, man. Like, I don't know him personally, but I've listened to a few interviews with him. I interviewed Dave Latelli, and we talked a little bit about it. But man, that guy, he's got a bad rap in the public eye, but he has done some phenomenal things, not just for you, but for a lot of people around him.
Yeah, and he's not one to talk about what he's done. He's not one to sort of share, I've done this for this person, that person. He does get a bad rap, and he likes to have fun too and enjoy life. but he's I've signed a contract with him for 6 years, and then I told him to be part of my management team just because there's trust and because he's always looked after me. And I wouldn't have a house, or I wouldn't have the things that I have if it wasn't for the team that I surround myself with. There's him, there's my parents, there's my lawyers, there's a whole lot.
Talk to me about the community aspect. You just mentioned like giving back and that being a big part of what you enjoy and what you want to do in the future, but it's also something that's become a big part of your brand as well over recent years. Like, you're involved in quite a lot of charitable organizations. Is that something that you feel just as an obligation that comes with your sort of level of celebrity and the platform that you've got, or why do you get so involved?
I get involved because there's a lot that we could do to help. We got to use the platform, or we're in a privileged position. We've made some good money. People know us, and we've got to help. We've got to use this opportunity to give back. And so I'm involved with Eat My Lunch, and they're helping a lot of schools and kids with no lunches, giving them lunches so they can actually eat and have a full stomach and learn better. I'm involved with the Minimal Foundation, do a great work in the community, helping kids who don't have clothes, who are cold, and doing pajamas and food and this and that. Also, our Mental Health Foundation, very important one. A lot of people have mental health but don't talk about it because they're shy, or they don't want to be open about it. But for me, it's trying to spread the word that it's courage, it's courageous, and it's to speak up, and it's not something they should be ashamed about. So, and there's a few other things that we do here and there, but those are the three main ones that I work with. Yeah,
it's awesome, man. It's cool. Do you on a level of fulfillment from all your boxing achievements and stuff, where does that kind of work sit for you? Is it because there's a lot of fulfillment when you're getting out there and doing things for other people? Obviously, you've had some big achievements. How does that balance up for you?
Like going out and giving stuff or doing stuff?
Yeah, just the feeling like when you're at your level and you can give like that. When you give your time to a kid, it means so much to that kid. And here you are we're on a Saturday, bro, and it's 5:00, and you're giving me your time to have a chat in the middle of your camp. You are a giving guy, but you must get a lot of fulfillment from doing that work.
I feel there's a feeling of joy and happiness when you give. Like when someone gives me something, I feel like I have to give back. So it's but whenever you give, and I'm sure you're the same. There's just a good feeling that you have in yourself.
Yeah, totally, man. I agree 100%. Hey, what's something that people might not know about you that you're most proud of? So obviously, naturally, if I ask you that, you're probably going to say becoming champion of the world. But the major accolades aside, the things that people don't know about Joe, what would you say is something that you're most proud of?
The proudest moment of my life would be looking after my parents. That is the proudest. Yeah, the proudest moment of my life is looking after my parents and my siblings and close family members. Being able to, like I said, give. For everything that everyone has done for me, being able to give here and there and making your lives a lot easier and simpler, that's my proudest moment or achievement.
That's awesome, man. I bet, particularly, given your parents have played such a massive role in getting you to where you are, being able to look after them must be incredibly rewarding, bro.
They took out heaps of loans.
Really, give me a bit of an example of what you went through to on what your family and that, because I think people just see the success. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is people just see where you're at and are like, oh yeah, Joe's world champion, blah blah blah. But give us a little bit of context to how hard it is coming up and what you have to sacrifice yourself and what your family have sacrificed.
Yeah, my parents worked. My dad worked too. He's been at the steel mill for over 30 years. He's still there now. And my mom worked 2 or 3 different jobs, and so they were both trying to work, and they bought a house early on and trying to pay the house, trying to look after the family, and they're trying to, and because New Zealand boxing amateur, amateur boxing doesn't have money. When I was chosen to represent New Zealand at different tournaments around the world, my parents would have to fund a lot of the trips, and that's flights that are like, I don't know how many thousands it is, and they didn't have the funds to do it. So my dad had a Visa card. He said, "Hey son, here's my Visa card." And they took out loans to be able to pay for my trips around the world and my accommodation. Even one time my coach paid for a trip for me because, my parents were paying all this, and my coach was like, "All right, I believe in you. Go to Azerbaijan, and here's $3,000 or $4,000 to pay for the trip." So there's a lot of people that invested and didn't even know that I was going to be champion. Didn't know I was going to be any good. They just thought, okay, he loves the sport. He's shown some promise. We want to back him 100%. And so from all of the loans and the time and taking me to the gym and early mornings and cooking this, cooking that, that's what I'm saying. The proudest achievement for me would be just giving. They don't expect it back, but I want to give back, and I want to say, you know what? Thank you guys. I love you guys. Have this. And even though I've given my parents, some money, my dad still works. He still works. He still works hard, and he's a great example. Him and my parents are great examples of hard workers.
Nice, man. That's awesome. Hey, I know that we've got to wrap it up. You've got pretty limited time at the moment. You're a busy man, so I want to be respectful of your time. Sort of last couple of questions for you, bro. If you were to give, based on your experience through boxing and life, 3 bits of advice to a younger Joe or to any young person out there with dreams and aspirations and goals, or anyone who's listening to the podcast, what are sort of 3 things that you've learned over the course of your career that you think are like the most valuable bits of advice that you'd like to pass along?
Most valuable bits of advice. Probably one of them would be never give up, Never give up. I mean, times do get hard and sometimes you're not achieving what you want to achieve right now, but never give up on what you want to achieve in life. And then the other one is back yourself. Back yourself 100%. Don't wait for other people to back you. Don't wait for your friends or your family, or if you believe in yourself and you back yourself 100%, you go for it. It doesn't even matter if anyone else believes in you, as long as you believe in yourself. And the other one would be the power comes from within. Whenever things do get hard and times get hard and you don't believe in yourself, but the power from within will always come out, and it will help you understand that you can back yourself and believe in yourself, and you can achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Nice, bro. That was excellent. Hey, Joe, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you, bro. I'm a big fan, have been for ages. I'm a combat sport boxing fanatic. But it's pretty cool, I think, for New Zealanders to be able to have watched your career from your first fights and then see you get to where you got to on the world stage. I was spewing when the ref didn't let you fight AJ properly, and then the headbutt with White. And
but listen, we'll get another chance to fight them. And if we do, if you ever want to fly to a fight or whatever, I'll get you a ticket. Since you're a big supporter and you're a big fan of combat sports, I will look after you for a ticket.
Oh, mate, I appreciate it. Hey, no, I know that you're a real humble guy, obviously giving up your time on a Saturday night. I know that you're busy in camp. You've got probably all sorts of commitments going on. But I think that's a testament to the character of who you are outside of boxing as well, bro. And even the stuff that you talked about with giving. And I don't know, man, I think you're a great role model in that aspect for a lot of young people coming through. And I just want to say thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best with Junior. And I really hope to see you fighting for that world title again sometime soon, bro.
And you'll be there.
I'll be there, mate. I'll take you up on that. I'm coming.
Lock it in.
We'll do a virtual shake.
Thank you, bro.
Hey, now have an awesome camp, man, and I'll let you get on with your evening. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. See you soon.